What's going on, guys? Welcome to Rob's house. All right, I actually wasn't even gonna do a video tonight, but as I got into this mod, I decided maybe people will like this, so check it out. So thanks to GT3 Taylor, he had this Lingenfelter LNC 2014 launch control two-step controller laying around in his garage, and he gave it to me. Shout out to Taylor. He just found this kind of sitting in his garage and he was like, yo, take this, put it on your car and go make it shoot fire. And I was like, well, you don't have to tell me twice, let's do it. So I've sort of like already installed it, and anyway, I'll walk you through it. So basically this thing is super easy to install. It just plugs in line with all of your ignition coils. So 4 on this side, 4 on that side. It actually doesn't matter what order you plug them in either, because all it's doing is it's just cutting spark whenever it needs to cut spark. Now we have a couple of controls here. So for now I have it on the green wire, which is marked ground activation. Anyone familiar with the C7 platform, you know that there's already actually a built-in launch control into the car. And with HP tuners, you can actually set that to whatever you want. But this provides you with a second launch point if you want to have a different rev limit set, say for like roll racing, for example. Right now, it doesn't really function like an anti-lag in the sense that there's no lag because this is a supercharger on this car. There's not any turbo to spool, so that's not really a problem, right? So it doesn't really function that way. But if we want to have, for example, if we know, hey, if I'm going 60 mile an hour and I want to do a roll race, I'm around 3,500 RPMs, I can basically hold the button, hammer the gas, it'll keep me at 3,500 RPM, and when I'm ready to go, I just take my finger off the button and we're off to the races. That just kind of helps you maintain a steady launch speed if you want to do it that way. I honestly don't really race. I don't really have any need for it for that. So instead, we're gonna hook it up just to make my car shoot gigantic fireballs out of the exhaust, because everyone loves fire. So if you notice back here on the controller, right, it has an activation. So you can activate with either positive 12 volt signal from the yellow wire activation, or the green wire is ground activation. So it's just whether you want to activate it with either a power wire or a ground wire, doesn't really matter. There's this orange plus 12 volt retard activation, and that activates the secondary feature, which is timing retard. So this two-step controller can also not just act as a rev limiter, but while it's doing that, it can actually retard timing. And this is an anti-lag function, basically, where if you had turbochargers, you would not only want to have sort of a rev limit launch control set, you would also want to pull timing in order to allow literally to shoot fire, like to allow unburnt fuel to make it into your exhaust. Basically, you know, it'll ignite in your exhaust because your exhaust is really hot, and that'll spool your turbos, right? Well, in this case, we're here on YouTube and we just like shooting fire, right? There's literally no point in me doing this to this car other than it's gonna be awesome. Now, I've already prototyped this, as I mentioned, and I have it on the green wire, which is the ground activation wire, as you can see right here. I'm actually going to take it off that wire because I don't want it on ground activation. Instead, I'm going to actually bridge the yellow 12 volt activation and the orange 12 volt retard activation, so that when I hit my button, I not only have a rev limit, I'm also retarding my timing, and I'm going to have it pull a crap ton of timing so that it shoots massive flames. Now, what I've already done in the car is I bought this Nitrous Express stealth like button cluster thingy. Let me show you real quick. Here in the Corvette, I already have it installed, okay? Pretty neat, replaces your cigarette lighter. But the thing is, I don't need 4 buttons. I was just using it on the purge button right now to activate my ground activation wire. So obviously you have to push and hold it to activate it, and as soon as you let off, the two-step is no longer active. So the thing is, I don't need this busy of a cluster. So what I did was, the reason I bought this guy was prototype it, make sure that it fits nice, and that I can still, you know, that it looks cool. It, you know, folds down in here. You would think that the cigarette lighter, which is normally here, is here, but it's not. I've removed that. So I measured the dimensions of that Nitrous Express button cluster, and I mocked up this, which is, I actually just did this in FreeCAD, and I mocked up basically something to replace it that'll just have a spot, as you can see, one single hole in it for my activation button that I bought, that I'll show you in a second. And I 3D printed this. So this is gonna replace our Nitrous Express button cluster. And let me find our button here. All right, and here's our push to activate button that is going to mount. This is gonna mount inside of our 3D printed bracket. I don't know what to really call this thing, but Anyway, we're gonna mount that in there, and then I just thought, I mean, A, this is a bigger button because that Nitrous Express button is kind of small, and as you can see, it says fire missiles on it, which is kind of cool. And also, it actually has an onboard LED so that at night, when I'm gonna actually wire the LED running light power to my LED underglow, so that whenever I have my underglow switch on, it'll also light this button up at night. So when I like pop the pod up, it'll say fire missiles and be lit up. I think it lights up red. That's just kind of the idea. Let me, I gotta like rewire this. I gotta take that green wire out, disconnect that green wire and bridge the orange and yellow positive 12 volt activation wires. I'm gonna actually, since I have the underglow already and I have that switch wired with a permanent 12 volt source on the switch, you have a power and ground that go into that switch, and then you have a power wire coming off the switch when you actually flick it on, which actually powers the LEDs. But what I'll be able to do is I'll be able to bridge into that power wire for my positive activation here. And I'm gonna have to, I have to refer back to the schematics, wire this guy up, install it in the car, and I'll show you guys the finished product. And then later in this video, we'll time travel like we always do, and I'll show you guys some flames. So anyway, let me get this all set up, and then I'll show you guys kind of the finished product. It'll make a lot more sense once I'm all done. I'll be right back. All right, guys, so I got this all set up. As you can see, when I flip my underglow switch here, the running light for the button turns on with my lights. So that's, you know, if it's at night, that'll be on basically. I could have like spliced that into something else like my headlights or whatever, but I didn't feel like messing around with any of that. I already have a switch for the LED underglow, so we'll keep it simple. I did have to actually turn the car on in order to test the activation signal, because in order for the unit to actually get power, the car has to be on. So I did that off camera really quickly, and it does seem to be working. It's worth noting that this particular type of activation button, it has a constant ground, a constant power, then it has an LED power, which is just this red sort of running LED, and then it has a device wire. So basically you have constant power, constant ground, which I just spliced that into my constant power and constant ground that is going to this switch as well. Then for the running LED light, I spliced that into the device light of my underglow. That way when my underglow is receiving signal, it will flick that running LED on. And then the actual device power wire is the 12 volt power that actually goes to the launch control unit and will actually cause it to activate at the specified RPM and the specified timing retard setting. The way I have it set now is I have it set to limit me at 4,500 RPMs and pull 15 degrees of timing. I should, in theory, just have to hold the button for like a second or two and bounce rev limiter, and we should get some flames. So anyway, I am going to time travel. I'll see you guys the next night I have that it's not raining, and we'll go out and we'll actually see if it works. So I'll be right back. All right, guys, it is the next night. Fortunately, we still have good weather. We are here in an undisclosed location in the Corvette, and we're going to see once and for all, will the Corvette shoot fire? But first, I still have to let the car finish warming up because it didn't get warm enough on the ride over here. So anyway, we'll be back. Night mode in the Corvette, ladies and gentlemen. The calm before the storm. This is the calm before the storm, everyone. Check it out. Check out how awesome those C8 style taillights look. Obviously, I put the green underglow on when we wrapped the car. I don't know if I ever actually showed that to you guys on the channel. But we have green underglow to match the wrap. I do have to let the car warm up because it's actually not fully up to operating temperature yet. It was very close. You can kind of see the underglow in the front here. A couple spots I got to redo this winter on the wrap, but it looks pretty good. Wrap actually held up really well all season, so. All right, guys, the car is just about up to temperature here. Let's test it out. Let's see what we got. god, I got out of that parking lot quick. That first pop that you guys saw there, where it shot like the 7-footers out, literally sounded like a gunshot. So I did a couple of quick revs. I could only see that first one. I didn't even think that it continued shooting flames, but that is awesome. Oh my god. That is way crazier than I thought it was gonna be. Shout out to GT3 Taylor. Thank you, dude. This is so sick. Oh my god. All right, we're gonna have to do more of that in future videos. But for tonight, I think I'm gonna wrap it up and call it a night. As usual, I hope this video was entertaining, and I'll see you guys next time.